All right, so I have Javon.
Yes, hello?
Hello, Javon, we can hear you.
Yes. I just thought I should start off the meeting. I messaged about it. And I feel like the first voice should definitely be someone who is of African American descent. Um, this is a very, very emotional and very difficult time. For me in particular, I've been through the system more times than I care to admit. I've been arrested 3 times for doing my job. I've been in and out of a holding cell more times than I care to admit. And I literally imagine the feeling is lambs to the slaughter. That is the feeling. That is the feeling that courses through my veins and the veins of many people who share my skin tone and share my experience. It's lambs to the slaughter. What we need right now is allyship of an exponential level. We need people to stand by us and stand with us, but not to stand in front of us. We need people to speak when we need them to speak up and call out the system and make the changes through economic, capitalist, anti-capitalist, and racial means, but not to stand in front of and lead and spearhead the change. That is a position that should be occupied by a black body and not by someone who is not of that descent. And that is by no means to disrespect anybody in this chat who is not African American, but this is a time for us right now to be heard, to be represented, and to make a change. And I understand maybe that my time is coming short, but it definitely has to lead through us. And if there's anybody who's gonna speak after me, that's fine, of being white, whatever race you are, but definitely understand that the need for the black body to be heard first and foremost is of exceeding importance. So I just want to make that point. Okay.
Thank you very much, Javon. I appreciate your comment. We have a couple more people on the list. Next up, I have Rainer Abreu.
Hello, that is me. I just wanted to first start off by saying that I 100% agree with Javon. That is a very, very important point to make. I just wanted to speak about my experience protesting today in Newark, New Jersey. This was a protest that was organized. I'm not really sure who, what, when, or where, but I just wanted to mention my experience only because this was a protest that was very clearly not made by people, by like average people, you know what I mean? Like this was an event where elected officials are invited to speak, you know what I mean? You can't talk bad about the mayor, like it was very, very manufactured. And I just want to say, I really want us to, I'm new to organizing too, but I want to make sure that when we do stuff like this, it's organic, it's not fake. It felt so fake to see a moderator tell people who were gonna speak what they could or could not say. And can you guess what they were not allowed to say? Yeah, I could tell it was a lot of anti-capitalist sentiment that they were not allowed to speak on, right? So I just wanted to share that, and tell people what I experienced today. Because I did think it was really interesting, and I do have to go soon because I am trying to help out organizing this other thing Anthony is doing too. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Rainer. It's very interesting to hear what's going on elsewhere and how people are running these events. So thank you for that. All right, let me check my list. So next I have Danny. Danny had also made a comment on the chat. Danny.
Yeah, I'm just going to repeat the comment or rephrase it. We really need to be mindful of outside entities infiltrating any planned event. Like they're there is some suspicion that and probability that the the um, the action in that turned violent, I forget where it was, but that the violence was started by infiltrating entities. So that's something that we need to be very mindful and plan for.
Okay, thank you for your question. And if anybody wants to address this question, feel free to do so. I'm going to continue going down the list. Next, I have Vivian Jimenez.
Hi, this is Richard, Vivian's husband. The one thing I just wanted to speak on was to definitely stand behind Javon and my friend Jamai and what they have said. I'm sick of seeing my skin color at the top of some hierarchy that's 200 years too late. And I know that a deep revolution is in order here, but in a sense of a day-to-day struggle, the only thing I can see that gives me heart and gives me hope is when we see people of color trying to get into the system, people like AOC, people like Kamala. I know that there's many that would even think that when you see a person like Nancy Pelosi in a position of power, it's still a sellout. But unless we get more women to form a quorum and more people of color to form a quorum on any hierarchy, police, politics, etc., it's never going to get back around to justice when all the players are playing the same position, the same side of the same team. They need to be traded out. They need to be replaced by the right kind of people if the hierarchy is to exist at all. I think everybody else agrees with that. I hope that what I'm trying to say is understood, that if 3 women are in a corporation, the sexism and harassment tend to drop. 1 woman is not enough. 2 women just commiserate, but 3 women form a team. And it needs to be that kind of critical mass in every situation that's causing a suppression and harassment. That's all.
Thank you for that. All right, so next I have Akil Riley.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Akil?
This is Akil from Oakland, California. Yeah, just I believe that like in terms of stopping this police brutality, I think organizing marches, I think that's a start to what in the right direction, but it definitely doesn't end there. I mean, like we were talking about, it doesn't happen overnight. And we got to be in it for the long haul. And so what me and my friend are doing, we're organizing a march on Monday for those in the Bay Area on June 1st at Oakland Tech at 4 p.m. We're going to be marching towards OPD. It's basically a solidarity march and also to say that we're not going to let this stuff slide anymore. Like whenever something happens, whenever you take one of ours, we're going to disrupt the peace. We're going to disrupt the, the common flow of society. And it's to stop society from moving how it usually operates. And until there's change, you feel me? So I think disruption is a big part of how it should be, and that's just the start. You know, I'm not a veteran organizer. This is our first march that we organized. So my bad. I didn't even.
No, you still have 30 seconds. Go on, finish.
Okay, yeah. You know, I'm just getting into organizing. I'm not a politician, but I have my views. And one thing also, I was at the protest in Oakland last night and just realizing how real this stuff is, and I kind of got emotional because you see how the power they have to take somebody's life, and a lot of people, I think a lot of police officers want to do that, and a lot of them look like they were itching to take somebody's life. It's crazy. I don't know if there's any good cops out there until I see somebody actively working against the force.
Thank you very much, Akil. And I think that some people are already sharing the information for the demonstration you were talking about, but be sure to maybe keep posting it throughout the discussion so we can have the information for it in case people want it. Okay, thank you for that. And next I'm going to, I think next on the list is Kyle P.
Yeah, hey everyone. I just wanted to kind of stress, I think we have to understand like the significance of the moment we're living in and looking at the response across the country to this situation. I think we're really seeing people put their foot down, and that this is has a lot of potential for transformation going forward. So we got to understand that. I think we got to really talk to people and engage people and understand that this is a situation that everyone is kind of forced to have an opinion on and a position on. And we need to be, engaging people around this. And not only, about this question, but about all the ways in which racism manifests itself in our society. Like the speakers were saying, the fact that we're living in the biggest pandemic in this history of the world in 100 years, and who's bearing the brunt of this? It's people of color that have inadequate access to healthcare. It's the people that tend to have to work the low-wage jobs and return back to work and get COVID or starve. So we have to be talking about all this. And the other thing is I wanted to address, talking to people around this, and you have friends and stuff say, oh, I agree with it, but I kind of don't like the violence. Okay, I can kind of understand that. But I think we need to get involved. We need to show up, and there's no being neutral in this situation. We can't let up until all 4 of those cops are in jail.
Right. Thank you, Kyle. And now I have Yolanda Chavez, and after that, I'm going to have Gerald Smith. Yolanda Chavez.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear you.
Okay, this murder was just horrible, and to just watch it, it just just gripped you, and I think of incidences that happened with my son and my family members. I think of the 60s when we fought so hard, with the Black Panther Party and the Brown Berets and fighting for the things we need. And then all of a sudden we have this fucked up president, excuse my language, and look what's going on. They are coming out and killing people more blatantly and more boldly now. They don't care. They're just doing it. But the good thing is that the people have put their foot down. They burned down the police precinct. It's kind of directed now, and they've said they've had enough. And look at all the demonstrations throughout, the different cities across the United States, which is great. But we need a party finally, for working people, so that we can push and organize things in the direction that it needs to go to benefit the majority of the people, because these murders are not going to stop. They're going to get worse, and they're going to get more bold and blatant as you've seen them. So I think protesting is good, but we need a party, in order to go somewhere now, because we are in depression era or worse statistics as far as unemployment, people, needing food to eat. Okay. And, all these things, this situation has just ripened to such an extent. So I think it's time to develop the party for the working people of this country. And that's the only way we're going to survive this. Thank you.
Thank you, Yolanda. I agree with you on the question if we need organizations that are for working people. And I definitely have to reiterate what has been said earlier, that this issue has not been one that is corresponding only to one presidency or one party. This has been an issue that has been ongoing for centuries now. So I think that what you're saying is absolutely true. We have to stop looking for those people in power to change anything, and we have to take power ourselves. Okay, so next up I have Gerald Smith, and then after him is Drew. We hear you, Gerald.
Oh, I know I had muted myself. Y'all lucky I didn't start carrying on. Anyway, hey Jay, I know how you feel talking to those co-workers. I worked construction for 36 years, and I can't imagine a more backward milieu, politically speaking. But you know what? Even there, I was able to find some people that understood that the system was not working in their benefit. So this George Floyd, first of all, I'm not sure that he committed a crime at all. Now, of course, they didn't kill him now, so it's going to be hard to determine. But it was supposed to be about something about a signature. Come on. And they have not proven that. So I'm not going to give them the satisfaction of talking about the brother when they haven't even proved their case yet. Look like they just killed him to me. The young brother that said, whites should not spearhead the change. I understand that in reality, that certainly is true. There's some truth there. But what if you live in a town of 4,000 and there is no active Black movement? Should you do nothing then? No, let's be careful. Let's not turn that a generally correct point into a dogma, because the Democratic Party is about, and they play on the politics of resentment. And I think we have to see that that is an enemy organization, all right? And that unfortunately, a lot of Black people relate to them on some level and are being misled, and let's be clear about that. So I'm not listening to nobody like that, thank you, when it comes down to what I'm supposed to be doing, okay? This APTP stuff is very contradictory. I don't have the time to get into them, but I think the thing to do is to work side by side with them when possible and demonstrate what is actually, what their real dynamics are. This question of provocation, I have to reject that because it's always provocation. But thousands of protesters stood around the police station watching that thing burn down, and it was good. And the reason it was good, okay, my time is up. Can I finish my little sentence? All right, the reason it was good is because they done killed a bunch of people right there in that town. One of them, Brother Clark, had his handcuffs on when they shot him in the head. I could go on, but there is a long and ugly record. And the reality is only socialism can solve this. And we need to be upfront about that.
Thank you, Gerald. All right, and next we have Drew, who is on the list, and after that I have BR. Drew, are you around? Okay, so while Drew gets himself ready, can BR start?
Hey.
Hi.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
My name's Buddy. I'm a train operator at BART. So one of the few workplaces where we're considered essential, but we're still going to work, and I just wanted to sort of let you guys know, as far as the conservative elements in your workplace, I've noticed a considerable change.
I'm sorry, buddy. Do you mind speaking up a little bit? I think people can't hear you well. I can hear you fine, but others can't. Can you speak up? Thank you.
Yeah, how about now? Is that better?
Better.
Okay, at work, I'm just noticing a change in the tone of like what people are willing to talk about, and how they address the looting or so-called looting. They're going to try everything to seize the narrative to discredit what's happening, but ultimately people, they escalate within their means, and they have agency. So it's incredible to see a lot of the amount of bravery out there. People are really putting their asses on the line to better the conditions for themselves. Just thinking about being in the Bay now for a long time, my whole life, and being around, the activist work is sort of like, well, what we all have sort of like loose coalitions and relationships, and is this in a period where we can sort of cohere all that, you know. I think there's definitely at BART, there's people within our unions who want to see a substantive change, and you know, and they're willing to, if they see something that's worth participating in, you know, I don't want to say general strike and all that and like jump the gun on that, but I think people, they're looking at what's happening and they're looking for ways to contribute. So especially the period we're going to enter. So I think people should be optimistic about that.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just want to let people know you are on the list, and I have Drew next, XSB, Soph, Albert, and Levante. So we have everybody, and we just lower your hands once you make it to the list. Okay. All right. So next is Drew. Drew, are you ready?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear you fine.
Okay, awesome. Hey, everybody, my name is Drew. I'm from Oakland, and I've been active with Speak Out for a while.
Hi, Drew.
So, yeah, one of the things I wanted to mention is, you know, jailing these 4 cops or jailing these 5 cops, I really think is a far cry from justice. You know, what happens when the next George gets murdered? Then what? You know, then we jail those other police officers and continue the cycle. I think what we're seeing now with the outpouring of anger and emotion in the streets is that I think we've moved, people have crossed the line. You know, people do not want to continue living like this. This is not acceptable. And I think that's clear for everyone to see. So I think what we're starting to see in the streets is really the beginnings of hopefully of what can be our future. You know, the racism and the brutality of our society is beyond unbearable. It's totally not acceptable, and people have started to act. And I think what we have to start to do is start to connect the dots. You know, the racism of our society is connected to, you know, the economic inequality. It's connected to the climate change. It's connected to the wars we have abroad. And, you know, we're all in it together. It should, the old socialist slogan of an injury to one is an injury to all. And we have to realize where the power we have, it's in the working class, and the working class is diverse. You know, it's diverse in gender, it's diverse in race, and we have to find the commonalities we have and overcome our obstacles and come together. And this time we have to fight. You know, we can't continue this these reforms of, you know, give and take. We really have to fight to transform our society and really have victory, so we don't have to continue with this madness. So we really have to continue organizing ourselves. So that's all for me. Thanks.
Agreed. Thank you. All right. So next I have XSB.
Yes. Hi. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
All right, X.
What's up? What's up? My name is Xavier Brown. I'm from Oakland, California. I'm 19. I'm an acting student at UCLA, and I am partnering with my lifelong friend Akil to really organize this protest. And even though there will be no destruction, no rioting, we are still going to disrupt the peace with our words. And I think that that's what is very important. And I think that every single community around the United States can do so, not just the ones that have been affected directly by police brutality, because guaranteed that every single police department has its problems. So I encourage everyone to organize, to protest, no matter where they are. But the march will be from Oakland Tech, and we're gonna be going to OPD. It's gonna be at 4 p.m. So I encourage anyone from the Bay Area to show up and show out. You feel me? We will be having numerous speakers, including myself. So it's going to be a great time,
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right, so
Thank you.
have, and actually, X, before you depart, there's a question. Is the march arranged to maintain social distance? Would you like to just address that quickly?
Yes. So if you see the flyer on my Instagram is xd savant. I have put out that we're going to keep 6 feet apart and everyone is required to wear a mask. We will also be providing masks to anyone who does not have one. So we're going to try and protest as safely as possible.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. All right, so next I have Soph, and after Soph, Albert. Soph?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm in Oakland as well, and I work at one of the Oakland hospitals in the ER here, and I went to work today and had many conversations with coworkers about what was happening, and many people did talk about the violence against buildings and being scared and going home after work. Also other coworkers were talking about how like this is sort of an inevitable time that people are feeling like they need to come together because they're really sick of what's been happening. This is not the first Black person that has been killed and probably not going to be the last. But what I continue seeing with these demonstrations, even though I was there and I agree that we should demonstrate, is that there's more people being arrested, more Black and brown people being arrested there, being harassed. The police is really organized. And for those of you that were around when Black Lives Matter first started, you know, that they shut that down. They were willing to bring, the government was willing to bring the military to stop it. So I think that protesting is very important. And I think that we need to talk about what it looks like to continue maybe organizing in different ways, like in other places where folks get together every Friday and instead of like a daily kind of response because we're angry and this just happened. Because I feel like the system only listens when it's hurting, and it's hurting when the economy is hurting and the money that they're making are off working people. So if working people can, or people that are sympathetic of our lives that are continuing to get murdered and exploited, if there's ways that we can continue to talk about that, that's important and I think useful for us to think about and organize. Thanks.
Thank you for that. All right, so next I have Albert and then Levante. Albert?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. My name is Albert, and I'm from Minnesota. I don't know if you can see this. St. Paul, born and raised. And I live now in Oakland, and I've been volunteering on outreach at Western Service Workers Association, West Oakland, for the past 10 years. And I have a very close friend who's a Black woman, and she's a professional, and she was in administration in the federal government for many, many years. And so she's very familiar with whites and Black needs because she worked at Social Security. But when George Floyd was killed, I talked to her on the phone, and she was distraught. And I didn't realize how distraught. Maybe this had something to do with her response. But I asked her, before you're going to have people work together on something, they need to have something in common. I guess you'd say something to be grateful for, some common experience before they're going to do anything, or be able to identify with the needs of the other. And so I said, can you think of one thing that Blacks and whites have in common? And she said, no, I can't. I can't think of anything. Well, she was distraught, and we're all distraught now. So it seems as though, and we're full of resentment for one reason or another. But it's not because we have anything in common or that we know of things in common that we want to get back to. And so a lot of prayerful things or convocations start with meditating on what you're grateful for. And you do that without even talking, you're just breathing deeply and visualizing what you're grateful for with other people who are being grateful for what they're grateful for. But you don't even mention what those things are. But when you do it, you have a sense of commonality with those people. And so I'm just thinking that maybe what we need to do is find out what is it we really do have in common with each other, and how can we use that as a basis of wanting to get back to it or promote it or expand it or whatever, because right now it's not being thought about or even, you know, in the same ballpark with us right now. So, okay.
Thank you, Albert. Next I have Levante and then Sultana after. Levante?
Can everyone hear me?
A little
Can everyone hear
bit
me?
choppy, but yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, you got to bear with me because I might go over the time, but I just feel what I have to say is just really important. My name is Levante Donry Curvin. I'm 33 years old.
Levante, we're struggling
Oakland,
to
California. I've
understand
lived here
you.
virtually my whole life. Went to private school. You know?
You sound very, very choppy.
Okay. Let me try to get into a better reception, and then maybe I'll come right back in.
We can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Let me start over. I will probably go over the 2 minutes. I'll be honest, but I think what I have to say is pretty important.
I'm gonna try to let you do that, but we have a long list after you, so I would really ask for you.
I got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
So here's the deal. Name is Levante Donry Curvin, man. I'm 33 years old from Oakland, California. My mom was raised in Hunters Point, so I was born from oppression. And from K through 12, I have gone to a private school, raised in the ghettos, but basically went to very affluent schools. So I've lived in very alternate worlds throughout my whole life. I've gone to universities, graduated from college. I've done everything I was supposed to do. Hearing Akil, hearing Jemai, hearing Drew. Drew is the reason I'm speaking right now. But the reason why I feel a need to speak up is because in telling you my story is I have been complicit and compliant up to this point. I'm 33 years old, and I think there's so many people. There's 42 million Black Americans, and the media chooses to show the small majority of us that decide to get violent and get angry and do what we can just to have our voices be heard. But there's people like me that have been quiet in the shadows, trying to find ways. And right now I work in tech. I work for some of the larger companies. I hire people for a living and been in so many different boardrooms and different spaces and have tried my best to be, just abide by the rules. And I think something that I think non-Blacks haven't thought about is how many Black people are in the US and how many of us are trying our best to play by the rules. Now, something to really think about is what happens when we finally decide that we're done with this shit, because I'm about at that point. Yeah. I being from Oakland and remembering Oscar Grant and knowing how much that affected me. So for 11 years, I haven't protested. I haven't done a lot of things, but it's been sitting inside of me. And now I'm at that point where I'm just like, you know what? Yeah, it's that time now, because they don't want to hear us. They don't want to hear us, and they want to, control the narratives. They want to, make us bad people. So, and that's all I needed to say. Just something to think about. Think about all the Black Americans that aren't saying things, and it's about to get to that time where we're going to speak up.
Completely agreed, and I think a lot of people are feeling exactly what you're feeling today, so it's really good to hear that. And I'm sorry to cut you off. I just have other people that also want to share their thoughts, so thank you for that. I have
problem at all. Thank you.
Okay, I have Sultana next, and after that, Axe.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello. My name is Sultana, and I am a bus operator for AC Transit. And, just thinking about what's been going on for the past couple of days, when I see the protesters, whether it's, buildings burning or people marching, I'm past the point where I'm willing to even entertain judgment on what protesters are doing, because I need all that judgment. I need all that energy to be directed towards the actual source of this problem. The protests, riots, whatever you want to call them, they are just a symptom. The actual disease is systemic racism. So we can keep poking at the symptoms all we want, but the disease is still going to rage on. You know, and I'm tired of being told how I should or shouldn't protest. You know, kneeling wasn't good enough. You know, marching isn't good. You know, I mean, there's no right way to do it. And, you know, on another note, one of the prouder moments that I've had this weekend, particularly being a bus operator, is just seeing in multiple cities, I've seen videos where in cities where there were protests and bus drivers were being asked to transport protesters that were arrested. And I was so happy to see my fellow bus operators refusing to participate in, you know, transporting these people to be arrested and prosecuted. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sultana. All right, so next I have Axe.
Hi, thanks. Just as Sultana as well, I work in public transit, and definitely, you know, you see how effective we can be as working people who have a position in this society to throw a wrench in this operation of a police state that's trying to rob people from their livelihoods, their lives, their everything. So no, I think just as many have spoken much more eloquently than me, you know, just the racism, the violence, the poverty in this system. And it's moments like these, watching the videos, it makes me sick to my stomach. It's unbearable. And, you know, it's really one of those moments that people feel like we have to fling ourselves into the machine, kind of, to try to make it to stop, you know. Just a couple quick things I want to contribute. I think to me it's always refreshing to remember that in a mass movement that started in the 60s, or, you know, that has been going on in this country for a long time against racist oppression, but that really got some steam going in the 60s and 70s, was deemed as such a threat because it was so powerful and so much full of energy, and by its roots is connected to how capitalism in the United States and beyond operates. It's an existential threat to this system. And I think we have to remember that, because that is why the police are being rolled out in massive numbers, the military, you know, in some cases, the National Guard. So, you know, I think we have to fight this system each and every day. We have to dedicate ourselves to that fight, because it's disgusting to live in a world like this. So I think, you know, in the last 10 seconds, I think, you know, we need to see ourselves as organizers. Each and every one of us here is in touch with many people around us. We need to try to engage those people around us. We need to find them and find out what it is that they are ready to do. If we're at a workplace, be strategic, you know, don't take unnecessary risks, but there's people all around us who feel similarly, who could be engaged in practical steps to feel like we're doing something together. Same thing in our neighborhoods and beyond. So yeah, thank you very much for having this.
Thank you very much for that. All right, so next I have Elisar, and then after that we're going to try to connect with Drew's friend. Okay, so Elisar?
Yeah, hello?
Hi, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to comment. You know, growing up, going to school, challenging the system, or even learning how to do so, understanding how it is that our system works is not something that we're taught growing up. But one thing we do learn to understand very early on is violence. we see it. We see violence in our school. We see it in our community. We see it on TV. We hear about it in other parts of the world, and carried out by this very government. And so, to expect or to be surprised that you have individuals running out in the street, who don't really understand maybe that might not resolve the issue, and or just taking the opportunity maybe to take something from a store or whatever. Then again, these are individuals who grew up in that system, going to that school, who which is not showing them or aimed at politicizing them or helping them understand how to go about fighting the system correctly. But violence is something we understand very well. So that's just what I want to say.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, so now a friend from Drew's is on his phone and would like to speak. Drew, can you get them on?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so what I don't want to do is piggyback on what everybody's emotions is. I respect them and I understand them, and I'm in full support of it. My name is Derek Boutte. I work at Highland Hospital. I've been working there for 21 years. I also am the chair for social and economic justice for SEIU 1021. I'm in this to build relationships with other outside correlations, nonprofit organizations, and that's what we do within SEIU 1021. I want to find a way where we can work together collectively to come up with solutions that can impact change immediately. So I'm here just in total support of listening to everything that everyone has said, but I want to be able to work on a consistent basis with each and every one of these organizations that are involved right now. We're all tired of exactly all of the things that are going on in life and society. We know that impact of what that is, and I'm willing to work to take on those challenges with each and every one of you guys. So please understand that that's why I'm here in total support. Drew has introduced me to this aspect. Me and Drew has done a lot of work together. So I just wanted to introduce myself to allow you guys to know that you do have an organization on the phone that we can actually figure out some kind of way that we can find solutions to support these conditions that we're actually enduring on a consistent basis. So any kind of way that I can be of support, that's what I would like to do. So like I said, my name is Derek Boutte. I am the chair for social and economic justice for SEIU 1021, and I've been working at Highland Hospital for 21 years. So I also know the impact of the COVID-19 situation, how it impacts us as people out here of color, how it impacts us actually at our jobs and puts us at risk at any of these low employment jobs. So the conversation that you guys are having, these are the conversations that we're actually looking for and being able to tie into and find solutions. I understand that people's anger and emotions are out there, and the protesting and the vandalizing and all of that that's going on, but I want us to be able to channel that energy in a productive way where we can hold all of this justice administration accountable. But we could make sure that these people that we're putting in these positions, mayors and even the horrible presidents that we have that be coming in here, no matter what the color of them be, but we can start something that would coincide and exist together, that we can make sure accountability is being brought to our communities on a consistent basis. So that's all I wanted to say. And
thank you so much for those comments. We really appreciate it, and thank you for phoning in. Okay, so I have a bunch of people on the list. Our tentative plan would be to end our session at 5:30. So if you wanted to say something and you haven't gotten yourself on the list yet, please do so now. So next, I have a question from Ayesa, who couldn't say it, but she wrote it. And she said, I can't speak because I have kids in the background. I want to ask how we can get things to change, like really get things to change. I get we're looking to the working class to come together, but we tried this before during Oscar Grant. It's maddening and very angering that this is going on. This is something that keeps going on. I'm angry. I want this shit to change. I need shit to change. I'm raising a child in this society, and all I want to do is cry. What can we do? What can I do?
yeah, I was just trying to talk to you, Drew.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And that is Ayesa's point. And thank you, Ayesa, for that and for sharing those thoughts. And if people want to respond to Ayesa directly, you may. Next, I have Mauricio, and after Mauricio, I have Kip.
Hi, thanks. Sorry about the confusion about the list. I didn't know how it worked. But yeah, I just wanted to say this kind of what the only thing I wanted to mention before I have to take off kind of speaks to Aisa's question. One thing that you could do on like I feel that helps a lot on a small scale, but sometimes small steps, you know, get you to a place you need to be, is that don't be afraid to speak your mind if you hear something that offends you, or you need to, or you feel that you should let other people know that things like that aren't everybody's opinions, and things don't need to be said out loud. And if they feel that way, sometimes calling out people for the things they say in the moment, they might learn something that they never knew before. That there are people with different opinions, that there are people that are touched by situations that they don't even know exist. And doing that, I have seen so much change around me working in an environment I work. There tends to be a lot of male machismo and kind of a pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality from people that are of color, and some that and more that are not. So it's kind of hard to understand or to know where it comes from a lot of the time, but that's not our job. You could do your best to just let those people know and speak up for those that aren't there to speak up for themselves at any moment, and that'll go a long way. But know that it will put you in a bad position sometimes. You will make more enemies than friends that way, but you don't need them as friends anyways. Do yourself a favor by doing them a huge favor and let them know that their opinions aren't as important as they think they are, and not everybody wants to hear it. We're together in living together, working together, being around each other. Not everybody needs to spread hate, and let them know that that's exactly what they're saying when they say it. And like, be ready for the repercussions. People will call you an asshole. People will say you're on a soapbox. People will do those things because they just want to continue to keep living the way they always lived before, uncalled out and unchecked. That can't happen anymore. If something offends you, say it, because there are other people that agree with your side and will back you up. That's it. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I got to go a little bit early, but I got my daughter and my wife's painting a bedroom, so I have to go. But thank you for your time, everybody, and I really enjoyed listening to this.
Thank you for joining. All right, so next I have Kip, and then Ty will. So Kip.
I agree with what a number of people have said about especially about the system. In terms of having a collective response or a collective consciousness, I think one thing that we see with this virus, that it has created a collective understanding of the lack of empathy, the lack of concern, and what the real priorities of this system and those who head it are. Because we see that they have, from our perspective, the people who live not just in this country, but around the world, for the most part, they've had a miserable failure. Their concern is primarily to guard their money, to guard their profits, to guard their system. And in the same way, I think the torturous murder of George Floyd had the same kind of resonance. There's no way that people could have looked at that video and watched this long, torturous murder that we heard described and that many of us saw. And what this has done is really pulled the mask off this system. We hear about violence. Burning buildings is violence. There is nothing that we could do that could even pale in comparison with the violence of this system, the systemic violence, the centuries of violence, just the poverty that's inflicted on people, their wars. They have no business to call us out on any of this. I'm not for going and burning those buildings, because there are buildings. Our labor built those buildings. It's the work of working class people that has done everything that exists in this society, and those vulturous people at the top are the ones who benefit. So what we have to see, and I agree with a couple of people who said that we need socialism, we need to transform the system, we need to overturn the system, we need to understand our place in this society, the power that we have. It's more than marching in the street. We do not have to plead with politicians. We don't have to look for a good cop. We know what their role is. They can take off those uniforms and act like human beings. Our role right now is to build a revolutionary organization, to understand what we can do to organize and mobilize our power to transform the system. We do not have time to fool around.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. All right, so next I have Taiwo.
Hi, my name is Taiwo Kujichagulia Seitu. I'm an educator here in Oakland Unified School District. I am just really wanting to encourage people to get in where you fit in, coalition building. Whatever organizations work that you are inside of, don't feel like you have to find that one organization that's going to be like the end-all be-all savior organization. Find organizations that are like-minded and work with those organizations. So as a part of the OEA, Oakland Education Association, we have a Black Women's Caucus. I'm a member of the Black Women's Caucus. I would love to speak with Derek, who is working with the SEIU 1021. I would love to see if we can work together as unions and figure out some solutions. I sat on the National Board of Directors of the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America for some years, and it's a coalition. It was the NAACP. It's several church groups. It's really a coalition. It's about organizations working together. So I just want to encourage people, wherever you are, if it's your church, if it's a Bible study group that you belong to, but you're like-minded and the people in the group are like-minded who are willing to work together, build coalitions with other organizations who are willing to do the work, because the longer we wait, the longer we are dealing with this beast called racism. And racism is the issue here. Capitalism is the issue here. And there are things that need to be, systems that need to be killed dead. And if we're working together, we can do that. And it's not going to take any one method, but several methods. So however we can organize, whatever you can do, if you're an educator, you're a performing artist, you're an activist, get in where you fit in and figure out how you can work with other like-minded people and other organizations to make a dent and make an effort to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for that, Taiwo. And next I have Jolene. And then next I have Bob and Z after that. Jolene. Okay, so then maybe we'll have Bob and Z.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. No, I really liked so many of the comments that have been mentioned. I appreciated Levante's question, you know, what happens when we're done with this shit? And I think the other question that really hits the nail on the head is, you know, what do we have in common? We have so much in common, you know. What does, you know, I might not be killed by the police in the street, but what future do I have? What future do we all have? I mean, climate change, the unemployment, the dangers of just everyday life for the vast majority of people, like starvation, like we have so much in common. And we, you know, maybe we focus on the differences a little bit, but, and we have to talk about the violence that's directed against Black people every day. But, you know, what happens when we're done with this shit? We need a direction. And I was watching the kind of news about the Minneapolis bus drivers who were refusing to transport, jailed protesters. And, you know, that's a decision that workers and people all over the world can make is, you know, what do we want to do with our labor? And, you know, let's take over the CNN building. Let's make our own news stations. It's been done before. I mean, mass social movements can do these things, and that's what gives us power. And especially when it's, you know, the workers who already know how those workplaces function, etc. So, you know, and just watching all the news, we have to be really clear. They're going to try to say, you know, turn in your census and vote. No, we keep going into the streets and we keep talking to everybody that we know, because we don't have time for what census? You know, that has nothing to do with redistributing wealth. We make all of the wealth in society, and we should be able to decide where it goes and what the purpose of life is about. And we shouldn't have to starve just because they run the show. Like, we make all of the wealth, and we should be able to decide, but we have to view ourselves as organizers and view ourselves as able to talk to everyone around us and be able to explain where we lay in society, what our future should be, and what we can do about it. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, and lastly, we have Bob and Z.
Hi, this is Bob, and Z is with me here in Baltimore. And I wanted to just say, and with Speak Out, but I just wanted to say that this year, actually just about 6 weeks ago, was the 5th anniversary of the cop murder of Freddie Gray in Baltimore. And I don't know, we haven't seen too much of Baltimore in the TV the last day or two, but 5 years ago, Baltimore was on national TV with people in a mass uprising against the racist system. I think that I just wanted to give you a quick report that there is activity in Baltimore. We went downtown to a demonstration. It was mostly a car caravan, so we never got out of our car. There were a lot of people on foot as well. And there were some demonstrations yesterday and today in front of police headquarters, and I know that more are scheduled. So and I certainly don't talk to enough people in Baltimore to tell you really what's going on, but there's no question that there is some feeling about of strong identity with Minneapolis and all the other places around the country with the history that we share. So really want to say how much I support so many of the things that people have said so far, and that the struggle is continuing here in Baltimore.
Thank you for letting us know what's going on there as well. So with that, I think we've reached the end of our event today. I want to thank you all very much for coming and for joining us and having such an engaging discussion. We really hope that this has encouraged you to get active. As you may or may not know, we are active in a number of workplaces in the San Francisco Bay Area, as well as in our communities and schools in the Bay Area, Newark, Baltimore, New York. So wherever you are, please reach out to us to find out about getting involved with us and to organize to fight for a better world. I mentioned this earlier, but I want to remind people that we're having our event next Saturday. We're titling it Opening the Economy, Their Plans and Ours. There is a rush to open the economy that has nothing to do with providing us with real hope for our future. It's all about the profits of the banks and the corporations, and we know their plans. We need to make ours. So please join us next Saturday for that event. If you haven't already, please remember to add yourself to our email list and to keep in touch. I believe it has gone on the chat box several times, so we'll post it again so you guys can connect to us. If you are a frontline worker, or if you would like to share what it's been like for you to experience this crisis, please send us an email with your take on this pandemic, and we can publish it in a section on our website called Reports from the Frontlines. You can also share these reports with others, and this is just one more way or one more tool to show each other just how similar our experiences are and how we are all in this together. And lastly, if you're interested in socialist ideas, please check out our website for our Socialism 101 event, which we're planning to have on June 7th at 1 p.m. So please be sure to check our website. And again, thank you all for coming and participating today.